Look. It matters what you call a thing. Exquisite, a lover called me. Exquisite. Whereas, well, if I were from your culture living in this country, said the man outside the 2004 Republican National Convention, I would put up with that for this country. Whereas, I felt the need to clarify. You would put up with torture, you mean? And he proclaimed, yes. Whereas, what is your life? Whereas, years after they look down from their jets and declare my mother's Abaddon block probably destroyed, we walked by the villas, the faces of buildings torn off into dioramas, and recorded it on a handheld camcorder. Whereas, it could take as long as 16 seconds between the trigger pulled in Las Vegas and the Hellfire missile landing in Solmaz Sharif, after which they will ask, did we hit a child? No, a dog, they will answer themselves. Whereas, the federal judge at the sentencing hearing said, I want to make sure I pronounced the defendant's name correctly. Whereas, this lover would pronounce my name and call me exquisite, and lay the floor lamp across the floor, softening even the light. Whereas the lover made my heat rise so that if heat sensors were trained on me, they could read my thermal shadow through the roof and through the wardrobe. Whereas, we ran into groups like mass executions with hands tied behind their backs and everybody's shot in the head side by side. It's not like seeing a dead body walking to the grocery store here. It's not like that. It's Iraq, It's Iraq. It's kind of acceptable to see that there and not. It was kind of like seeing a dead dog or a dead cat lying. Whereas I thought if he would look at my exquisite face or my father's, he would reconsider. Whereas, you mean I should be disappeared because of my family name? And he answered, yes, that's exactly what I mean, adding that his wife helped draft the Patriot Act. Whereas, the federal judge wanted to be sure he was pronouncing the defendant's name correctly and said he had read all the exhibits, which included the letter I wrote to cast the defendant in a loving light. Whereas, today, we celebrate things like his transfer to a detention center closer to home. Whereas, his son has moved across the country. Whereas, I made nothing happen. Whereas, ye know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a thermal shadow. It appears so little and then vanishes from the screen. Whereas, I cannot control my own heat, and it can take as long as 16 seconds between the trigger, the Hellfire missile, and a dog, they will answer themselves. Whereas, a dog, they will say, now, therefore, let it matter what we call a thing. Let it be the exquisite face for at least 16 seconds. Let me look at you. Let me look at you in a light that takes years to get here.